Hi everyone, good evening. Welcome to 29th episode of the Logophile Lounge. Today we are going to do basics of English grammar. This is the continuation of previous session that we had done. Yes, good evening everyone. So we will start now. Just to give you an idea, this is today we are going to do something where I have seen a lot of people make mistake. When in fact all of us make mistake in this, right? Um, and that is where we thought that we should cover this concept here so that you become at least aware of this, right? Once you become aware, once you start paying attention to this, then you will see that you will improve over a period of time. Though these concepts are quite light, light in the sense that it seems quite obvious, but still, uh, when it goes into a paragraph, it is not that obvious, right? When you combine with other sentences, it doesn't look that obvious, and therefore we tend to ignore that while proofreading, and we end up making a lot of mistakes. Though these are small mistakes, but it makes a greater impact, a serious impact on your writing skills. All right. So, yes, good evening. So, I see many people here: Branda, Suma, Jitendra, Pradeep, Javeen, um, Nancy, Bobby Rajkumar, Amandeep. Good evening, everyone. So, we are now going to start now. Um, I do request that once the session completes or even during the session, please like and share this video. Yes, to help us spread the word. And now I'm going to share my screen to get started with the concept. Yes. Um, all right. So let's start now. This is lesson 2. In case if you have not attended the previous session, I do request you to, after this video, watch that recorded session as well. That will be really helpful to you. This is 29th episode. All right. uh, that we do on every Thursday at 8 p.m. The topics are mostly related to content writing and digital marketing. So do subscribe to the channel if you have not done so, and keep getting back to us on Thursday, every Thursday at 8 p.m. to get some free knowledge. Yes. So this is today's agenda. We are going to study fragments and run-on sentences, right? The duration of the session is expected to be 45 minutes, but then I will not try to uh, just take it through, or I will take all your queries and I will try to answer that. And that is why it might take some more time. Otherwise, the expected time is 45 minutes. We are going to study this fragment and run-on sentences. Just to repeat once again, you will see uh, when some of you have attended the classes, we have checked your assignments, you will see that a lot of you may tend to make these mistakes once you realize. And why we make this mistake, we will also get to know today. All right. Fragments, as you see, this is fragment of something. It's something, broken part of a sentence that you have written separately. Whereas run-on sentences are when you combine two sentences into one sentence inappropriately, right? Let's see how do we do that. So, all right. So, good evening, everyone. I hope. Let's see. Let's get started with the class now. So, what is a sentence? We saw in the last session, in the first session, that a sentence is a combination of subject, verb, and a complete thought. So, a sentence should have at least one subject, I mean, one or many subjects. It should have subject, verb, and complete thought. If a sentence, I mean, if a group of word does not have any one of these elements, then it will simply be a phrase or a clause. It will not become a sentence. All right. So fragments are, let's see these things. These two are completely opposite of each other. So fragments, as you can see, this is a broken pencil here. So when a sentence does not have any one of these, subject, verb, or a complete thought, so you have missed something in a subject, and that is why it is not complete. All right. Whereas these run-on sentences are, it's like two sentences are running together inappropriately. So a run-on results when two sentences, which are called independent clauses, are joined without correct punctuation. So there are two independent sentences, and then you are trying to combine them uh, without either proper conjunction or proper punctuation, right? So these results into run-on errors, and this is fragments where uh, we will just see a part of the sentence, right? Again, good evening to everyone. Good evening. Nice to see you. Many people here, especially from yes classes in previous semesters. Good evening. All right, keep asking if you have any questions. Yes. So now let us see one by one. We will first see what are fragments, what makes us write fragments, how to identify them, and then how to fix them. Similarly, same thing we will study for run-on sentences. And all many new writers, especially new writers, tend to make these mistakes. So please pay attention here. Let's understand fragments first. So let's see a few examples. So as we discussed, fragment is a part of the sentence. It's not a complete sentence. We don't even call it a sentence. So for instance, you will say in terms of clause, let's see these, there are two group of words. We will say it clause, okay, group of words. The first one is all day in the office. Now does it have subject? No. Verb? No. Because we don't know who is doing what. It's just a group of words like all day in the office. Is it representing a complete thought? No. Then we don't call this a sentence. Don't think that simply just because it's starting with a capital letter and it's ending with this full stop, it does not mean, with a period, it does not mean that it's a sentence. It's called a fragment. All right. Then how can we make it correct? So we worked all day in the office. Now, does it have subject? Yes, it's we, because we did something, so we are the subject. Then verb, work, right? The action was the work, so verb is work. Is it making a complete thought? Yes, and that is why it's a sentence. Okay, remember that when you are including fragments, it's a mistake. You should not write fragments. We will study when can we use fragments, but that is at the end of the session. But for now, and when you are learning to write, please understand that you don't have to use fragments. So a group of words can be a sentence only when it contains subject, verb, and conveys a complete thought. All right. Similarly, let's see example 2. And this is where I have seen many people writing their professional bio and they tend to make these mistakes. Worked in advertising industry for 15 years. When they write it, they think that the audiences, since they're writing about themselves, so they omit I, and then they think that the sentence is complete. But then, does the first clause has a subject? No. So this is verb, yes, because worked, so work becomes a verb. Complete thought? No, because you do not know who worked, right? Until it is specifically mentioned who worked, this does not imply a complete thought, and therefore this is a fragment, right? This is not a sentence. And if you write in this way without bullet points, I mean, you can use this in bullet points because bullet points, remember, is part of a sentence. But this you cannot write as an independent sentence because it does not have a subject and it's not a sentence, it's a fragment, right? So, what is the correct sentence then? I worked in advertising industry for 15 years. Now here the subject is I, verb is work, complete thought, yes, because you know who is doing what. And then this becomes a sentence, right? So similarly, there are many times, in this case we saw that either a sentence does not have a subject or verb, and that is why it's not a sentence, it becomes a fragment. However, remember one thing, that even if a group of word has subject as well as verb, it can well be a fragment. Let's see this example. As I was playing in the park. Now what? Subject is there, I is the subject, play is verb, but is it conveying a complete meaning? It is not conveying a complete meaning simply because we are putting this as. So the moment you put as, it seems that you are waiting for some more information because you have not completed your sentence or your thought completely. And therefore, this does not have a complete thought, and we say that this is a fragment. This is not a sentence. And if you put like this, and if you put a period here, full stop, starting as, then it will be incorrect. Now, how can we make it complete? So, as I was playing in the park, I saw my friends. Now, subject is I, verb was play, complete thought. Now it is a complete thought because you are now saying, as I was playing in the park, I saw my friends. Now this is a complete thought, and therefore it is a sentence. All right. So the key takeaway from these three examples are that a sentence must have all three elements: subject, verb, and a complete thought. If any one of these missing from a group of words, then will just remain a group of words. It will not become a sentence. And please do not write in a paragraph form when you are writing. I'm repeatedly saying paragraph form because in bullet points we write that, okay, something is listed as follows, and then you list in bullet points because that becomes, all the bullet points become part of one sentence. But when you are writing in a paragraph form, do not write a fragment independently, right? It will be incorrect. Now, let us see how we can identify and fix them. Now, fragments, as you can see, that's quite common sense, isn't it? That it was common sense. We don't need to study that. But then there is a issue here. As a standalone sentence, it is quite clear that it is not making a complete thought, and therefore you will say that this is a fragment. This is not a sentence. But when you combine them in a paragraph, when you have a lot of other sentences, and a story is flowing, you're writing a story, there is a logic behind everything. So many a times a fragment goes unnoticed. Let us see an example. So this is an example. When you are saying that I worked as a business development manager in XYZ Inc. for 15 years, led a team of 8 professionals to deliver an annual sales target of $1 million. I also assisted Chief Marketing Officer in developing a sound go-to-marketing strategy or go-to-market strategy. Now you will clearly see that, I mean, if you just read it fluently, you may not find any error here, right? But we will just, in next few slides, we will see if there is an error or not. Can anyone just can identify if there is an error over here? Just identify and keep in your mind. You don't need to mention on the chat. We'll go back and we will see. Similarly, next example, anorexia is a growing problem among teens, is a type of eating disorder where people starve themselves for fear of becoming overweight. Learning about this problem is the first step to preventing it. Now, the problem here is that if you again read this, many people will not notice that there is a fragment in this sentence. And I have just taken, for the purpose of this class, I have just taken 3 sentences. All right. You will see that in many paragraph you will have more than 3 sentences, 4, 5, 6 sentences, right? And then uh, it's finding fragments become more difficult. Yes, Rajana, sorry. Um, you're kind of right. Now, so we will go step by step, and that is why I'm not discussing what is the fragment. We'll just now we will first try to understand how do you identify, because studying this separately is a different thing. But as a writer, when you write and then identify your own sentence at the proofreading stage, sometimes becomes difficult. So we have to know a way so that we can uh, quickly fix that. Let's see how can we fix that. So there is a favorite, test which is called a random person test, and you should apply test. What happens is once you write your first draft, and we have seen in effective content writing process that drafting, pre-writing, then drafting, and then you go revising. At the time of editing and proofreading, you also pay attention to whether each sentence is making a complete thought or not, a complete sense or not. And wherever you have a doubt, we conduct a random person test. Now, what is this random person test? Random person test, this is, first of all, this is a mind test. So please don't go to an actual random person on the road. It's a mind test. You don't have to go anywhere. You have to imagine in your mind that if I pick up this sentence and go to a random person and utter this sentence, will that person get a complete meaning? Will they know everything that I wanted to say without any further explanation? If your answer is yes, even a random person can understand it without telling you previous or the next sentences, then it is a sentence. But if it is not conveying the complete meaning, then it becomes a fragment. Let's see how. Um, But remember that the random person that you have imagined in your mind, should completely understand you without any further explanation. So let's now say we are suspicious of the following sentences that and want to say if one is a fragment or not. So I'm saying I eat a lot of chocolate whenever I am nervous or bored. Okay, I have written this or I'm making this statement. Now, let us take these two. I mean, as per me, these are 2 sentences, right? I eat a lot of chocolate, and whenever I am nervous or bored. Now, let me take this each of these sentences to a random person. Imagine that there is a random person who do not know about your previous sentence and the next sentence in the context. And then you say, I eat a lot of chocolate. Well, yes, it is making a complete sense, right? Because you are saying that I eat a lot of chocolates. By the way, here it will be chocolates. Then I'm saying whenever I am nervous or bored. Now, if I go and tell somebody whenever I'm nervous and bored, will they get anything? They won't understand, right? They will ask for further, okay, then what? Tell me what? Whenever you are nervous and bored, then what do you do? What? Now, this is not making a complete sense, or this is not a complete thought. And therefore, the second one, whenever I am nervous or bored, is not a sentence and it should not appear in this way. Alright? So either you need to fix this sentence. Alright? So it is not a sentence, it is a fragment. Now, there is one caution with the pronouns when you are doing a random person test. When you apply this test, remember that pronouns can sometimes make it seem like a thought is not complete. So, for example, if I go and tell somebody that he went there, now, even though this is a complete sentence because it has subject, it has verb, it makes a complete sense that someone went somewhere. But then if you go to a random person and they say, he went there. So he may not understand who is he, but at least we as an adult we understand that when we say pronouns, it's basically a replacement of noun, and therefore we consider that okay, fine. Uh, when I've seen when I've said a pronoun, I basically said something like Ram went there, Sham went there, or somewhere. Similarly, there is also a pronoun. So both there has also been used as a replacement of a place, and we understand that, and therefore um, we as an adult we have to take this understanding that pronouns uh, do not get confused when you're doing a random person test, especially with pronouns. They are simply the replacement of nouns. All right. Please, again, I will just mention here if you have any questions, you can keep asking here. If everything is clear, that is really good. Now, let's see how do you fix a fragment. And this is the most critical part because all of us, we tend to know the rules, but when we start writing, we tend not to apply the rules, because of our habit. That's simply because of our habit. But yes, if you start paying, since you have now known the concept, and at the time of proofreading, if you start paying attention to these things over a period of time, you will definitely improve and fix these um, incorrect sentences or fragments. So there are two ways that you can fix a fragment. Number one, combine it with a sentence that comes before or after. Okay? Or means um, so either a fragment you can combine either a sentence that is there preceding or after that fragment, or add the missing element to make it a complete sentence. Let's see how. This is exercise 1. um, Now you have seen this. Can anyone please tell me how can you first identify which one is a fragment in this 3 lines? Any answer? I am expecting an answer from somebody before I proceed. So I've worked as a business development manager in XYZ INC for 15 years. This is making a complete sense. Then led, yes, Alina, absolutely. Yes, Suma. Right. Led a team of eight professionals to deliver an annual sales target of $1 million. Now, if you go and tell this to somebody, that person will tell who? Who led? Did I or you or who? Yes, most of you have correctly found this mistake. So um, it will be absolutely yes. I worked as a business development manager in XYZ INC for 15 years and then led a team. Now, this fragment has a problem. I mean, this sentence has a problem, which is primarily a fragment and not a sentence. Now, how to fix that? So, there are two fixes. One is, and by the way, the fixes could be, it's entirely up to an individual. Different individuals can fix this kind of a problem in a different way. And that is why a lot of times you've seen that in the assignments we give a feedback that, okay, fix this and make like this. And then you will say, can't I make like in another way? Can't I say like this? So this is an idea. This is more of an individual thing. Anybody can fix it in a different way, and there are different people having different way of saying things. But there are two ways. At the end of the day, none of the paragraphs should have any fragments. So either I can make I led a team of 8 professionals, or if you feel that I worked, I led, I also assisted, it is becoming too bland or too boring. So you can say that um, I worked, I worked in XYZ for 15 years, where I led, and I led a team of 8 professionals. There are several ways of saying this, but you can work. There are two fixes. Either you can put I or where I led a team. So basically, either you combine with its adjacent sentences, or you add the missing element and make a complete sentence out of that, right? Comma after years, because I am using a pronoun where it is a conjunction. Sorry, it does not require a comma. If I would have used a conjunction like and, then it would have been two independent clauses where, and then I could have used a comma. Yes. Yes, and led a team. Yes, that would have also been correct. Absolutely correct. And then if you're writing and, it means you are joining two sentences. Then you would have put a comma there before and, right? We will just see that in the run-on sentences. Now, in sentence 2, in exercise 2, can you find where is the problem here in this paragraph? Where is the problem? Anorexia, a growing problem among teens, is a type of eating disorder where people starve themselves for fear of becoming overweight. Learning about this problem is the first step in preventing it. Jyotsna, I think you have a problem with comma without where. Yes, comma will not be there because before where, because that is a dependent clause, right? And therefore the comma will not be there. Where people, yes, Jinal, yes, right. Sunanda, yes, most of you are correct over here. So again, in this particular case, where people starve themselves for fear of becoming overweight is not complete. The second sentence is itself is not complete. Absolutely, Manvi. Yes. So right, and that is where, now how can you fix that? Can anyone tell me where can you fix that? Josna, okay, you are saying comma where is not required, just put a comma, then it would be a mistake. It would become an example of run on sentences, and we will just see in the second part of this lecture. Just be a little patient. We will just see. You pointed a correct thing. We will just see how we end up making that mistake. Disorder where, absolutely, Manvi. Just the comma will not be there because where people starve themselves, it's a dependent clause. And again, to everybody, those who are here, there is a video on comma rules. Please watch that video uh, so that you will get a clarification in terms of when to add comma, when not to. Great. So most of you have pointed this correctly. So just by removing the full stop, yes, Randa, absolutely right, you can fix this. So again, what did we do? We completed this, just we attached the fragment with the first sentence. All right? Yes. And now then there are multiple ways of fixing it. You can do it in the way that you want. You may break that into two sentences. You can combine that using different two independent clauses. You can do a number of ways. All right? So, okay, now there are three most. If you have any questions, please ask. I'm moving to the next part where we are going to see the common problem areas where you will find most of these errors and why these errors occur in the first place. Okay, so fragments are really just chunks of sentences that have broken off from the main sentence, right? A few types of sentences seem to tempt writers to make fragments. Now, these are the problem areas. These three problem areas where uh, they they're so tempting, that you end up making mistake. You end up writing um, these this style of writing breeds this kind of mistakes. So there are three introductory phrases when first you introduce something through a phrase and then you talk about that. We will just see the examples. The second is add-on phrases. So once we complete the sentence and then we add something after that, then we end up making mistakes. And then when you join two clauses with subordinating conjunctions, then also we end up making a mistake. And this, by the way, again, I'm saying this is out of habit we do this. Those who, and you will find that a lot of us are habit of either using these introductory phrases or add-on phrases, right? So there is a possibility that you will make a mistake. Introductory phrases. So fragment. Walking past the house. Now, this is where how we introduce. The mailman noticed the dog was off its leash. Okay. So, walking past the house, this is introducing the mailman, how he was when he noticed the dog. Now, if you put a full stop, then obviously it's a mistake. You understand that. It is just that when it's in the paragraph, we don't notice it. Otherwise, you understand this is a fragment. Okay. Similarly, many times I have seen that you introduce something and then you forget to put comma. You simply add a full stop or just combine without a comma. Then it's a mistake. Then moving to the next is add-on phrase. So phrases tagged on the end of a sentence that require a comma, not a period. So for example, fragment. I love reading good books, especially when I am not assigned to reading them. Now, especially when I am not assigned to reading them, this is an add-on phrase. Okay, you added some more information to the previous sentence, to the sentence, and therefore, uh, and you will see a lot of times I went there and then I saw that. I mean, we tend to make these mistakes. We add on more information at the end of sentence, and it requires more of a comma, not a period, because simply why? Because this, especially when I am not assigned to read them, does not make a complete thought. All right. So how will you correct that? I love reading good books, especially when I am not assigned to read them. All right. So this is with the comma. So whenever you are putting an add-on phrase, remember to add a comma, not a full stop or a period. Similarly, I felt like an outcast living on the edge of society. So I felt like an outcast living on the edge of society. This again will be with comma, not with the full stop. Thank you very much, Siddhant. Thank you. Do all of you make sure that you like this video? Yes. All right. Okay. So this is add-on phrase, and all of us, we sometimes in fact require to add some more information in a particular sentence. As long as the information that you are adding is complete in itself, then it is okay. If it is not, then you need to make sure that you have you add a comma or you make it a sentence, attach it with the correct sentence. Do not keep it as a fragment, right? All right. Then the third way is subordinating conjunctions. So whenever I go back home, now subordinating conjunctions means, we in the previous class we had seen that there was something independent clause and dependent clause, and we used to add them with subordinating conjunctions. All right. Okay. For some, the video might has stopped. Just try to refresh that, and it will work. If it still does not, then please message me. Okay. So in Delhi, weather conditions really bad, and therefore there could be some disturbance uh, in the internet. All right. So, subordinating conjunctions. Whenever I go back home, I hang out with my high school friends. Whenever I go back home, this becomes dependent clause. Okay. Um, all right. By the way, except Manvi, all of you can hear me and can see my screen, right? There is no issue with that. So, fragments again. Whenever I go back home, I hang out with my high school friends. Corrected is whenever I go back home, I hang out with my high school friends. Why I'm saying this? Why there is a possibility of error? Because this, whenever I go back home, is a this I hang out with my friends is a independent clause, and this is a dependent clause whenever I go back home. So therefore, when you combine these two, whenever, if, when you use these sentences at the beginning of the sentence, then you need a comma and then complete sentence, the independent clause. Similarly, I hang out with my friends from high school whenever I go back home. Now, this also has a mistake. Okay, it will be I hang out with my friends from high school whenever I go back home. Now, remember this, if you have put this whenever at the beginning of the sentence, then you will put comma. Okay, for this, I will again recommend you to watch that comma rules video. If you put this subordinating conjunction in the middle of the sentence, then the comma is not required. Okay, so I hang out with my friends from high school whenever I go back home, then here the comma will not be needed. All right, you simply omit the period and you will make a complete sentence. Similarly, uh, fragment again, because I have never had good vision, I will never make a good pilot. Now, because this is again a subordinating conjunction and we are stating in the beginning of the sentence, then we will put a comma. Because I have never had good vision, I will never make a good pilot, and a comma will be there. Okay. So this is when we are combining this, when we are using subordinating conjunctions. In fact, 70% of the fragments come, I'll not 70, but 60% of fragments come because of subordinating conjunctions. Now, this is the exercise. Can you underline the correct sentence and sentence fragments in the paragraph below? Just find out the fragments and message me on the chat. I love nature. I'm just reading it out. I love its beauty and its peace. I grew up in a rural setting, taking frequent trips to the nearby mountains. My childhood is filled with memories of family camping trips, slow walks through groves of aspen, and the sound of winds through pines. I love being where phones do not ring, where car horns cannot be heard. Periodic immersion in the natural world offers a kind of spiritual renewal that cannot be found in the city. I don't mean to say that cities are bad, just that it is nice to have a break from the city life every once in a while. Taking slow walks through, okay. Taking frequent, alright. Okay. Slow walks. Right. So taking frequent trips, that is a mistake. So either you combine this with I grew up in a rural setting, taking frequent trips to the nearby mountains, right? Then slow walks through, that is also a fragment. So you have to combine that with the my childhood is filled with memories of family camping trips. Slow walks through groves of spen and the sound of wind through pines. This also you have to combine. And yes, that's it. And where Car horns cannot be heard. Nobody said this. Okay, where horns? Right. Shalu Kapoor said that. Okay. Nature and its beauty. I love its beauty and its peace. That is fine. That is perfectly fine, isn't it? Phones do not ring where periodic. Right, absolutely, yes. Most of you are correct here. All right. So now let's move to the next part. Whose beauty? Its beauty. This is where Jyotsna, I told you, I love its beauty and its peace. So when you are saying it's, this is a pronoun, and please do not get confused with when you are doing a random person testing. Please do not get confused with pronouns. Except pronouns are exceptions because this is a replacement of nouns, and therefore we just forget them. Okay, fine. Pronouns make sense. Okay, Bhargavi taking frequent verbs. Yes, Dhanya. I don't mean to say just Dhanya. Okay. Um, all right. Um, Great. So now let's see this one. Sometimes fragments are intentional. By the way, now this is something that you should know. Um, okay, Elena is saying, what about the last sentence? Okay, let me go back to the last. Just that it is nice to have a break from the city life every once in a while. I don't mean to say that. Yes, absolutely. This is, Elena, you have picked it up correctly. I don't mean to say that cities are bad, just that now, comma, it will be there now, just that it is not nice to have a break. Thanks, Elena, for pointing this out. I just missed it out. So, this is also a fragment, just that it is nice to have a break. Because just as a word, and Dhanya, I think Dhanya also pointed this out. So, just is making this a fragment. So this is not a complete thought, and we have to add this with I don't mean to say that cities are bad, comma, and then continue with just that it is nice, etc. Right. Jitin, sir, while you're reading the sentence, I considered myself as a random person and I answered just by listening you. Um, okay. Right. Many times, what happens is that when you are listening to me and then you are answering, then there is a possibility that I give unnecessary pauses where commas are not there and therefore you do not uh, understand where is the comma, where is the full stop. Now, since comma and full stops are not there while I'm speaking, so you cannot find any error in that, or you cannot find the sentences are combined or not, right? So that is one difference. Also, one thing to those who were not, I mean, I'm also watching my screen on another screen on my mobile phone, and it got blank for some time. If you are also having the same problem, just disconnect it, then refresh the browser, and then connect it once again. You will see the video. All right. Thank you very much, Amit. Thank you. Now, there are some writers who intentionally write fragments, and you will see the story where does that happen. Experienced writers will sometimes use fragments for stylistic purposes, but my recommendation is that you do it only when you are experienced and when you know when to do it and when not to do it, right? Otherwise, if you start making something a mistake where you simply, I mean, it does not make sense, then it might be a childish mistake. Um, Yes, Sunanda, if you remove just that, then it becomes yes, if you remove just that, then it becomes an independent sentence and it is not a fragment, right? But since we are adding just in the last sentence, remember in the first example, Jitendra and Sunanda, remember in the first example when I had said as I was walking or playing in the park. Now that as made it like that it is incomplete. Similarly, when we are saying just here, it is making that just that it is nice to have a break. When you say something to somebody, it means that the person will feel that you might have said something before this, right? That is why it is a fragment. I hope Jitendra and Sunanda it is clear. Okay, so here is the thing. Some writers tend to write fragments for stylistic purposes. They do it rarely, they don't do it all the time, but they know that they are doing it and they do it intentionally. When you have that intention, when you have that control, you can do that, else it's best to avoid that. I don't do it. I have seen many experiences. I just don't do that. Usually people don't do it until you have to put some flavor in maybe, or you are quoting unquoting somebody, then you can use it. Else you should avoid that. So for example, let us see this. No one thought that Ethan could make the jump. It was just too high. All the same, he was determined to astound us, no matter what. Now, if you see this, um, no matter what is a kind of a fragment, isn't it? But still, it makes sense over here because you were trying to convey certain emotions through it. But then the point here is the writer who has written it know it very well that this is a fragment and he or she is putting it intentionally. So you put that only when you have the intention to put there. All right. Thank you, Amandeep. Thank you very much. Great. Now let's see. So if you have any questions, please ask me about this fragments. Uh, we will now move to the next opposite of fragments. So fragments, why fragments happen? Because we leave a sentence incomplete. Okay, we leave it a kind of, when you are not talking about a complete thought, it is incomplete. It's a fragment. But run-on sentences, on the other hand, are slightly different. So you combine the two statements, okay, without a proper conjunction or punctuation, then it results into run-on sentences. And by the way, this mistake is also made by a lot of people, especially when they write paragraph forms. Um, Jinal is saying that quotes in any statement can have a fragment, right? Yes, Jinal, absolutely. It's in any way a quote it can have. So Nanda is saying, I did this in my movie review as I was searching, I saw my reviews did write or speak sentence like this. Um, so did write or speak. Sunanda, just rephrase that. I did not understand. Same meaning in this sentence. What did all the same? Jitendra, I did not understand again in your question. All the same mean in this sentence. Okay, now let's see run-on sentences that is completely opposite of uh, fragments. Okay, you keep asking questions. I will answer whenever I will see your chat. Um, A run-on results when two sentences called independent clauses are joined without punctuation. Okay, so um, okay, so a run-on results when two sentences, right? Called okay. Something I got one from book thread online library. When we are adding something additional information about the first sentence, then we use comma instead of full stop. Absolutely. Uh, okay, somebody is saying all the same. Did I write somewhere all the same? Um, so all the same here is it has put with comma, right? So that is why it's saying this is not fragment because all the same he was determined to astound us. Uh, all the same in example, okay, right? It's I have taken it from the part of this uh, a paragraph, and this is where it has tried to make certain intentional errors, right? Okay, thank you, Amit. Thank you very much. Yes. Now let's see run-on sentences. Run-on sentences becomes mistake when you add two independent clauses into one sentence. Okay. When I'm saying independent clauses means they are sentence in themselves. They really don't need to be attached together. But still we do it for certain number of reasons. Sometimes it is needed, sometimes because we think like that, and sometimes out of habit. Let's see where we make the mistake. So there are two types of run-on sentences: comma splice run-ons and fused sentences run-ons. Don't go by this, terminologies. Just let's understand the intent, and you will get a clear picture of what I'm trying to say. So when two independent sentences are separated by a comma instead of a period, the result is called a comma splice. Right? So for example, swimming is good exercise, comma, I do it every morning. Now, swimming is good exercise. This in itself is a complete sentence. It makes a complete sense. Similarly, I do it every morning is also a complete sentence. When you combine two complete sentences, you cannot combine them with simply comma. You will end up making mistakes. Similarly, I still have not figured out Spanish, comma, I have been studying it for years. Again, this is a mistake because both of these parts are independent clauses or complete sentences. I've been waiting here for 1 hour. I'm going home. This is again incorrect. Why? Because you have taken two independent sentences and tried to combine them with comma. Now, how to fix comma splice run-ons? There are three types of fixes where you can choose any one of these and all three will be correct. So the first is that join the independent clauses with coordinating conjunctions. Okay, remember coordinating conjunctions, not subordinating conjunctions. There is a difference between coordinating and subordinating conjunctions. To know the difference, you have to watch the video of previous session. Just to summarize it, coordinating conjunctions means when you are combining two equals. Two equals means you are combining one independent sentence with another independent sentence. Subordinating conjunction is used when you are combining one dependent clause to another independent clause with a subordinating conjunction. But then I will not go into what is this definition of these because we will try to understand. I mean, you can just go and watch the previous video. So when you have to fix this comma splice run-ons, so remember one thing is whenever you have to combine two independent clauses, use a conjunction, coordinating conjunctions with these for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Whichever is fit, you can use them, right? So it is also called fanboys conjunctions. A comma should be placed before the fanboys conjunctions. Now, when you combine two independent sentences with fanboys, you put a comma here. That comma is needed. Okay? So, swimming is good exercise, so I do it every morning. Comma. Okay? Why comma? So is a conjunction, coordinating conjunction. I do it every morning and swimming is a good exercise. These two are independent clauses. So I used coordinating conjunction and put a comma over here. This is also defined in a comma rules. There is a video, you can go later and watch that video. Second one, I still have not figured out Spanish, comma, and I have been studying it for years. Similarly, this one, comma, so I am going home. I have been waiting here for 1 hour, comma, so I am going home, right? So this is one way of combining two independent sentences. Then the next one, there are two, and I said multiple fixes could be there, and we will just discuss just three. Then, thank you very much, Hanrud, thank you. So the second is separate the sentences with a period. The best way, and this is what I recommend, that the best way is why to combine two independent sentences. Just keep it simple, okay, with a period, and that's it. Yes, sometimes you may feel like that sentences are becoming too small, it's quite boring, but that is better than making a mistake, right? But it's up to you. I mean, simply full stop and it will work. There is no problem. Okay, so simply have a full stop and it will do. No, Kanika, I think, okay, you cannot write so after so you cannot put a comma. You can put a comma after so only when you are starting a sentence with so, comma. I went there, full stop, so, comma, and then you have to start. You cannot put it when so is coming in the middle of the sentence. We have to use before and we have to use comma. Yes, we have to put comma before and. Yes, Amy. Okay. I do strongly recommend everybody to watch that comma rules video. Yes. Those who are in the class, of course, we will discuss that in the class and I will try to explain everything to you. I mean, especially the mistakes that you make in your assignments. Yes. Um, Thank you very much, Siddhant. Thank you. All right. So now let's see the second one. Okay, you fix it with full stop. The third one is use a semicolon to separate the two sentences. Um, a semicolon acts in the same way as a period in that it separates two complete sentences, but it indicates a close relationship between two sentences. Ever wondered why we use semicolon, by the way? A semicolon is used when you write two independent sentences, yet you have to say that they both share close relationship. So we use colon, right? So let me take a few questions. So okay, Siddhant, I will just explain that in a little later. Jagrati is saying only can be used in new sentences. Janal, swimming is a good exercise, so I do it every morning. Yes, Janal, now you are perfect. Comma splice run-ons Siddhant means that you use comma to separate, to combine two sentences. So that becomes incorrect punctuation. All right. Okay. Now there are different ways of writing, so please do not get confused. As long as you are writing a correct sentence, grammatically correct, it is okay. It is conveying a complete meaning, it is fine. There are different ways of writing it, so don't think that can I write in this way or that way. All the ways are fine. Okay, now fused sentences run on. So sometimes two independent sentences are run together, they are run together. Exact. Without punctuation or a conjunction. These are called fused sentences. You can fix fused sentences using the same options described in the comma splices section above, like three fixes. So, for example, the incorrect example is I hope to see a movie this weekend. There is a new one in the dollar theater. Now, I hope to see movie in this weekend was a complete sentence, and then you are about to say that there is a new one in the dollar theater, and then you combine this with the first sentence without putting even a comma or anything, right? Without any conjunction. So that becomes an error, right? Um let's see. So the first one is add a conjunction to join the sentences. Okay. In this example, the conjunction does not need a comma because it is subordinating conjunction. So particularly I have written, so okay, I hope to see a movie this weekend because there is a new one in the dollar theater. Now you might say that we put a conjunction because, but here I did not put a comma before because. Why? Because is a subordinating conjunction and it depends that one part of the sentence is dependent on another part. Okay, so I hope to see a movie this weekend because there is a new one in the dollar theater. Had you put suppose end, okay, end. I hope to see a movie this weekend and there is a new one in the dollar theater. I don't know whether it makes sense or not, but then if you're saying end, then you would have put a comma before end because end is a coordinating conjunction and mixing the two independent or equal sentences. Yes, Devmitra, that is always the best choice that you make it two different sentences. That is the best way. You will stay away from these kind of mistakes that you can make unintentionally. Can use instead of because. As, yes, you can use as also. Yes, Rashmi, to everyone again I will say that this could be different way of saying it. I just put it one example. You can take another example. The only thing is that you either combine, take it you put a conjunction there. If you take coordinating conjunction, no comma. If you take subordinate, there will be a comma. If you take subordinating conjunction, then there is no comma. Now, as also, yes, as can be used, definitely used. Then there is a new movie in the Dollar Theatre, so I hope to see it this weekend. Yes, that can also be that. I hope to watch a movie this weekend since there is a new. Okay, now there are many ways of saying this. You can definitely say that. Um, then the second one is separate the sentences with a period. The best way. No confusion, nothing. Just way that whatever you want to say, you have to make sure that it should be correct, and the intention is there, because if intention is because and as, means one thing is dependent on another, then you have to use as or because. um okay, then this one, use a semicolon to indicate close relationship between the two sentences. Again, I hope to see a movie this weekend, colon, a semicolon, sorry, there is a new one in the Dollar Theatre, so there will be a semicolon there. Remember here, this is also I said in this by mistake. I said um, this one add on. Here I said colon by mistake, but this will be a semicolon. Okay, right. So this is how you combine fused sentences run on. Okay. Um, all right. So now let's do a quick exercise. Can can we try this exercise number 4? Underline the group of words where the comma splice of fused sentences occurs. Once you have identified the run-ons, correct them. So they did it again. Why do people keep doing this? You have to just point out where is the mistake and how we can fix that. And there are multiple ways to fix it. Remember this. All I'm asking is that my roommate show a little courtesy. Why can't they place the toilet paper roll on the correct way? It is not that hard. You just take the toilet paper, unhinge the bar, and slip the roll with the square facing you. Why would anyone in their right mind place the squares on the wall side? It makes random restroom breaks so stressful. You have to then awkwardly reach your hand up through the bar to grab the paper and then rip it off while making sure you don't unwind the whole roll. I swear if this happens again, I'm going to be one unowned. Okay, in the very first sentence, they did it again. Absolutely. Yes, just try to find out the mistakes. You can fix it in various ways. Again, um, did it again. Why do people keep doing this? So, did it again, there will be a period after again. Okay. All I'm asking for is that my roommates show a little courtesy. All I'm asking for is that my roommates show a little courtesy. Why can't they place the toilet paper roll on the correct way? There will be a full stop after that. Yes, it is not that hard, right? You just take the toilet paper, unhinge the bar, and slip the roll on with squares facing you. This is fine. Why would anyone in their right mind place the squares on the wall side? Yes, this is fine. It makes restroom break so stressful, you have to then awkwardly reach your hand up. Now this comma will go away and you have to fix this sentence in the way that you want. That is okay. Through the bar to grab the paper and then rip it off while making sure you don't unwind the whole roll. Right. And I swear if this happens again, I'm going to be uh, this will be a colon, semicolon. It is not that hard. All right. So most of you are correct in this part as well. Stressful that. All right. Okay. So this is where the answer is. Just to have a quick recheck, you can check your answers with that. Okay. The presentation will be there in the a description of this video. In case if it is not there, then do send us an email. You all of you would having my email ID. If you have received my email, do drop an email there and you will get the presentation part. Uh, with this, we will end the session. Please tell me if you have any questions. I'll be more than happy to answer the questions. Yes. Any questions now? Why no fix in the last instance? There is no fix because uh, it was fine. I mean, one sentence was dependent on another. Let me check this. I swear if this happens again, comma, I'm going to be one unknown. So this happens because there is a subordinating conjunction. If this happens again, right? If this happens again, I'm going to be unwarned, right? So this is dependent. One is dependent on another. So we are going with comma because this is because of if there is a comma is coming here, right? Don't think that I swear. It's just adding more information. If this happens again, comma, I'm going to be the one unowned. So since it's starting from subordinating conjunction, so we put it a comma there. All right. Great, everyone. So now, thank you very much for joining in, and do like this video. Do share it with your friends, family, colleagues, right? And yes, if you have any suggestion about the topics that we should cover in the next few episodes, please do that. Please mention in the comments. Do write us an email, okay? And we will cover that once again in the next episodes. All right. So okay, I'm getting some questions, so let me answer that. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you. Thanks very much. White paper writing. Alina, we will have a separate class, in fact, right? So since you are in the class, we will have on white paper writing. So don't worry. We'll have a special class for you. Yes. Uh, then, okay, any other thing? Bhargavi, I think I missed it. Now we will have to close the session. I will answer that question later on to you. Since you are also in the class, so I will answer that for you. Okay. Then, okay, great. Session on white paper writing. Yes, Alina, we will have a session on white paper writing. Don't worry. We will have most probably in the class, and most probably not. Definitely, we will have this in the class, right? And we will invite you for that. Vandana, you want to take previous classes? You can see this. All the live sessions you can see on YouTube on our YouTube channel. Okay. All right then. Thank you everyone. Bye. Good night. And yes, great. Good night.